Flowers while you're living, flowers while you're living, flowers while you're living, flowers while you're living, living, flowers while you're living, flowers while you're living, flowers while you're living, 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 living. You don't need to wait till you're underground. You need to receive them here and now. Flowers while you're living, flowers while you're living, flowers. Hello and welcome to Flowers While You're Living. I'm your host, Cheryl Thomas, and my guest is Darryl Bohannon, and he's also known as the drag artist known as Miss Demure, has made a name for herself with her 20-plus year variety show, Harper's Bazzaroworld, present the Miss Demure Show. And that's a mouthful. And that's down here at DATV. The show is held as the oldest LGBTQ plus public access variety show in the country. Welcome, Darryl. How are you?
Thank you for having me. And oh my God, what a wonderful program that you have here. Flowers. Oh my God.
Yes.
We've got a theme here. Well, thank you for letting me be a part of this.
Oh yes, definitely. Because I feel like the people need to know who you are. Even though you have a show here, I want them to know you. You know, Darryl Bohannon, or Miss Demure, as we call you, when you're in drag and everything. And matter of fact, you look lovely.
Well, thank you.
You look lovely.
This whole thing.
Yes. Okay, so now you've interviewed a lot of community members, celebrities, and people all over the world. And I'd like for you to talk about some of that. I know you've done them in studio and you've also done it on location. Tell us about that.
Well, I like to start with in the studio. Some of my most intimate and precious interviews have been with former Mayor Nan Whaley and Ryan McClin. And as far as people outside of the universe. What was it, a few years ago, I had comedy writer Bruce Valanche, 5-time Emmy winner. He is a permanent Hollywood Square on the Hollywood Squares, and he has won Emmys for the Oscars. So, oh my God, just so many different people in the universe that I've been able to interview. Michael Musto, who still writes for the Village Voice in New York. And so there's just been so many, and I've been very grateful to have this platform here, you know, DATV, which is the original social media.
And one of your guests that I love to see come on your show is her name Gilchrist?
Yes, Tracy E. Gilchrist. She was originally the editor-in-chief of the Advocate magazine, which is the oldest LGBTQ plus magazine in the United States since 1967. And now she has a new role. She's vice president of entertainment and host of Advocate Today, which you can see on YouTube and Apple TV. So they've actually taken the show and they brought it to the television wave. Right.
Well, we work on the same show.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm your producer, camera person / everything else. But what I love about her, she has that picture up there. I would love for her to give it to me. The Wizard of Oz.
Oh my God, it's so precious. Yes.
That is beautiful.
And one of her favorite movies.
Yes, mine too.
Oh,
mine
okay.
Too. Yes, yes. Because if you ever hear my phone ring, you'll hear Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Yes.
Okay, so now one of your favorite sitcoms back in the 60s was Bewitched.
Oh my God, I watch it.
What draws you to that?
Well, Elizabeth Montgomery, she was like the most kind, sweet, gentle, there was just something about her that just drew you to her. And the show, really when the show started, it premiered in 1964. The pilot was filmed in 1963. And William Asher, her husband, at the time, they were friends with the Kennedys. And this show was on the brink of civil rights movement. And so this show, done in a very lighthearted way, it talked about racism and just everything that was going on at that time. It was a very important part of a popular culture, and using the whole genre of magic. It was
Okay.
comedy. It really sort of softened the blow about mixed marriages and people being in a different universe. So as a small child, I watched it and I was enthralled by it.
Okay.
And one of my favorite characters on there was Aunt Clara.
Okay.
She was so adorable.
Yes. I used to enjoy watching that show as
Oh my
well.
God. And I have a box set at home. So anytime I want to watch it, I can watch
Just
the DVD.
pull it out.
And if
Okay.
you're on Amazon, you can watch it as well.
Okay. All right. So now you perform with others and you perform by yourself, like even here in the studio, you'll lip sync to songs and dance and things like that. And then you also have some other friends and they're puppets. Tell
Oh,
us
yes.
about that.
Well, there's Shaniqua Pink Dress. She's a homegirl puppet.
Okay.
You know, we have been in a lot of arguments over the show. She's a little bit of a diva, and so she always has something sassy to say whenever she's lip syncing a song. And then I have Pinky Think Pink. He's a little pink flamingo,
Okay.
which he's about to make a reemergence on the show and with a makeover. So stay tuned for that also.
Okay. Okay. So now with the puppets, and I know you have names for them and stuff, but you also got an easy bake oven.
Oh,
and
yes.
you do things for certain holidays and stuff.
Exactly. Well, as far as the puppets, you know, the thing about public access television, it's all volunteers. So if you come down here and you pay $50 a month, you can create your own program, but it's all volunteers. So sometimes, you know, I may have a few volunteers available. It gives you a chance to use your creativity to the 10th power. So sometimes if I don't have anyone available, I created these puppets and I can just pull them out. And so it's always you always have something other than the performing. It's just an extension of that.
Right, right. And then you also started show business kind of late in life. What made you want to get into show business?
Well, I did take drama in high school.
Okay. Oh.
And in my 20s and 30s, I kind of went through this period where I was very Afrocentric. And then
Okay.
I was very punk for a while, and I just always had these different looks, just trying to, find my own sense of self.
Okay.
Because I wasn't really out, and so I just sort of channeled it in other ways, And but my late father, we used to watch the Late 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 Show, and every Friday night, there would be on the local channel an old MGM or 20th Century Fox
Okay.
movie, and so this became a routine every Friday, and so I just got so used to seeing that I started living vicariously through those movies and characters, and it just sort of manifests in Ms. Demure. She's kind of a throwback from that era.
Okay.
Even the Easy Bake Oven.
Right, right.
It's very throwback. It's very retro, and I think people, when they watch the show, it's very comforting. It's like an old friend.
Okay.
It's a very safe space.
Okay. And then I also read where you said that you hit the reset button. Explain that about hitting the reset button.
Well, during that time, I actually started drag late in life, like you said. I started at 32, so that was kind of late for me, and that
Okay.
was the reset button. I really had found my sense of self. I mean, I came out when I was, I think I came out when I was 18 or 19, but I had sort of a bad situation with my family coming out. They just couldn't walk in my shoes. So I sort of went back into the closet for a while. And then
Okay.
my late 20s, early 30s, I blossomed and I hit the reset button. And at that time, I had lost a lot of weight.
Okay.
And when you're young and you lose weight and your
Right.
metabolism up, it's a whole makeover. And so I discovered myself. I discovered Ms. Demure, and the whole world just changed. I became the best version of myself.
Okay, okay. So when you came out in drag, did you do it on stage as well as down here at DATV?
Well, I had already been doing it for a few years,
Okay.
and so I would go out to the nightclubs, and I was just dibble-dallying. And believe me, those early drag moments,
Okay.
they were quite scary because I was still trying to figure it out. But I started doing a lot of shows for the Dayton Pride Partnership. They were always fundraisers.
Okay.
So my whole drag has always been nonprofit. So I would do these shows every year and would raise money for Pride.
Okay.
And then I became sort of known in the community for doing that. And then back in 2000, I joined the Pride Partnership. We built a float,
Okay.
and we took it to Columbus. We won the statewide parade. We were on CNN.
Okay.
And we made like history. And then the next year, we won a trophy again. And then that's when parades started happening in Dayton. So I like to believe that everything happens for a reason.
Right.
And that was meant to happen. And so I've created some history here, not only with my program, but within the rainbow.
Okay. So now, down at DATV, when you first started coming down here, which was many years ago, and then it didn't cost but like, what, $20 to
Yes,
join?
it was $20 a year. And believe me, when I came down here, I walked into the break room, and they used to have a bulletin board, and you sign, you request for a producer to produce your program, and so that's when I met Tiki Karkasama.
Okay.
And we collaborated, and she filmed my first pilot.
Okay. She's a lovely lady.
She is.
Yes,
she is, and I hope she's doing well out there. And such a wonderful person. So
Right.
we filmed that pilot, and it was the first time I had a female director,
Okay.
and that opened the door to another great director I had. May he rest in peace, Mr. Ed Willett.
Okay.
And Mr. Ed Willett is a very interesting man. He was from Yellow Springs, and he was a Tuskegee Airman,
Okay.
a pilot from World War II. And he directed some of my earlier shows. And I remember the first time he directed an episode of Bazzaroworld, and I said, Mr. Willett, I have a very important question to ask you. Are you going to be uncomfortable directing a drag queen? And you know what he said to me?
What was that?
He says, let me tell you something, young lady.
Oh.
I flew airplanes in World War II. I was a police officer in Chicago, and I said we met all types of interesting people, and we met female impersonators, and I've never met one as nice as you.
Okay.
And so that was the end of that.
Right.
Now he was up in age at the time, so sometimes he would doze off.
Oh.
I'll take with the check. But it was very cute. It was very,
Okay.
and we
Kind
just-
of like people do in church.
Yes.
Huh? Okay.
And then he'd wake up and we continue. But I could, like you, I have many feathers in my cap. And so I feel like with you and Ed Willett and Tiki, I feel like the excellence of African American contribution to this show has just been outstanding.
Okay. So now when you first came down here, did you take classes on learning how to run cameras, produce, direct, and things like that?
Yes. So back then you had to take basic studio and then you had to learn the cameras and
Right.
directing, and you had to turn in four shows to have a time slot.
Okay.
So so it took me. I filmed the pilot, and after the pilot, I went and started taking, because I was a guest as a pilot.
Okay.
And while that was airing, I started taking the courses, and then once that was done, I filmed my first 2 or 3 shows, and then after those aired, I started getting into the rhythm,
Okay.
like you have.
Yes.
And if you really,
Okay.
and you say to yourself, once you get that going, it's like you look back and you're like, oh wow, look at far I'm at, look how
Right.
far I've come. Like you with
Exactly.
this show.
Exactly, exactly. And that's true. And like I say, you do such a good job on everything that you do with your show, because
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
with me, directing it and things like that, I do it all in there. So I do the cameras, I do, just the graphics, or, just things like that. And I know what you like, which helps, and everything. But what I want to find out is, who are some of the oddballs that you're talking about that were down here at the studio. You
Oh
felt
my
like people were
God!
oddballs.
There was a I had one director. Oh my God! And I'm going to keep his name discreet. I'll just talk
Okay,
about him in
all
general.
right.
But he had a show down here called The Big Hair Show, and so he would film these shows where women are washing cars. And he was just he was such an oddball, but we got along, and he would direct my show. But he kind of got in hot water,
Okay.
and he lost his membership.
Oh, okay.
And I'm sorry, I have to tell the tea. So there's another station, Miami Valley Cable Council,
Okay.
because my show airs there as well. And he filmed a body modification show where people were hanging from metal hooks.
Okay.
And he didn't tell the station he was going to do this. And that was the end of that.
Okay.
So he was always doing these quirky things, and we'd find out at the very last
So he
minute.
was an oddball.
He
Yeah.
was a
Okay.
very, very oddball.
Okay.
So I've had some really.
Okay. Some stories that you could tell.
Oh, the stories have stories.
Yes. Okay. So now, what about Stonewall? Explain what Stonewall, what is it?
Well, the
and-
Stonewall Inn, it is a bar.
Okay.
It is in the Village in New York,
Okay.
Greenwich Village. And back in '69, there was a rebellion. And a trans woman who, there was a ruffle that happened in that bar.
Okay.
And she really kind of started the Stonewall Rebellion. And to this day, we've been having parades and stuff, and it really just sort of, drag queens and trans women, they were being beat up and assaulted, and this was like a rebellion against all of that.
Oh,
And
okay.
it started the whole movement.
But then you were also on a billboard advertisement.
Yes, and so it was the 50th anniversary of Stonewall.
Okay.
And so, DATV graciously put me up on the billboard and sponsored me for that, just to say thank you and show their support to me like I've always shown my support to them.
Right.
And everything I've done in my drag career is in the spirit of Stonewall, just sort of moving my community forward, bringing awareness and showing them that we're all walks of life and
Right.
we belong.
Okay. Well, now let's talk about the Guinness Book of Records. Tell us about that.
So, oh wow, I think it's about 8 or 9 years ago. Yeah, I believe it was 8 or 9 years ago. I tried to enter my show in the Guinness Book of World Records, and I did it several times, but I never received the honor because there's no competition.
So what was it about? I mean, why were you trying to enter? What were you entering
Well,
against?
I wanted to win the record for the longest LGBTQ plus public access variety
Okay.
talk show
Okay.
in the USA. So even though I am, the way the website works, you have to have another show that you. So it's like a contest.
Okay.
So there's no other shows like mine. Mine is totally original.
Right. Yeah, and it's
So I
very
still
good.
have the honor.
And that's a very good show. Because I've watched you, I direct the show, so I get to see what's going on. But after you edit things like that, I mean, I'm like, wow. And especially listening to some of the stories that your guests have to talk about.
They have very, very interesting, colorful lives, and I mean, these people are just so accomplished, and I'm just honored. And I've had people ask me, well, you should have this type of guest, and you should have that type of guest, and sometimes I get a feel what the audience wants.
Okay.
But at the same time, like you're the producer of your program. I'm the producer of my program, and I just try to find people. It doesn't matter if they're famous or not. They just have the it factor, which means they just have a story to tell.
Right.
Everyone has a story to tell.
And that's also interesting too, because back in the day, when you had the LGBT, and you would go to a bar, you went to a secret place or a special place to go to a bar for just, the LGBT people?
Oh,
And
absolutely.
you had to knock on the door to get in?
Yeah, that was our safe space back then.
Okay.
And I think our safe space changes throughout life.
Okay.
For some people, it's the church. Some people, it's their home. Some people, like for animals, it's not really a building. You're their safe space. And so one of my longest safe space has been down here at DATV. And sometimes it's been a safer space than my own rainbow community.
Right.
Because like in every community, there's sometimes a hierarchy that happens, and everybody wants to be in charge. And when I come down here, we're just all kind of like these, the island of misfit toys.
Yeah,
We're all
exactly.
kind of like that, and we're all different, but we get along, and
We do.
and it's just so easy.
And we do a lot of networking down here,
Yes.
and we get to talk to people and, maybe help someone with their show, or they help us with our show, things
Yes.
like that, which is great. And we're comfortable. We're actually comfortable with people like that. And just like you were mentioning about the bar, and that was your safe space there, but nowadays you got so much violence out there. And I mean, it's whatever it is. I mean, religion or just people in general, and and things like that. And you just have to be careful.
Yes, and and I'm glad you brought that up. There was a recent case, and I'm sure you saw it on the news, where the mother of the kid that shot the four.
Right.
And it's sad that something like that is still happening, but part of me feels a little optimistic about the what happened with the mother, because now parents are being made accountable for not nurturing their children.
Right.
And if you're not nurturing your children and you get all these warning signs, and we live in a society, and believe me, I believe in the Second Amendment.
Right.
I believe that people should have guns to be safe.
Right.
But it's not for me, but I believe it for other people. But war weapons should not be available for anyone to go walk in the store and get it.
Exactly.
And maybe with this happening to this mother, her being made accountable, more parents will be on alert that
Right.
you neglect your children, you're going to end up doing some time now.
Exactly.
And maybe this will finally slow down these gun sales, because it's just ridiculous.
Right. And I agree with you on that, because it's just dangerous out there.
Oh, absolutely.
Just going out of your house, it's dangerous. And you got, like say, you got a lot of hate crime, and things like that. And people should be loving on each other and
Exactly.
stuff.
I don't particularly like guns, and I mean, I grew up without a gun in my house.
Okay.
I think not having one continually, not having one, it's not going to make a difference.
Right,
so
right.
why, and I understand for people, every situation is different, but I just think we're just really abusing this privilege.
Exactly. So now you're giving people a window into your community, and you feel comfortable with that, showing them who you are as Darryl Bohannon or Miss Demure. And
well, I'm more Ms. Demure down at DATV, but in my everyday life, I'm just trying to make a living,
Right.
and just trying to navigate in this new normal, whatever that is.
right. What is the new norm?
Yeah, there really isn't, is it?
Right. Yeah. So tell us about a little bit more about your show. Who do you have coming up? What are you working on? I'm nosy.
Well, so tonight, Cheryl is I'm being a guest on her program, and also this will air on my season premiere,
Right.
which is going to debut the last week in May, and it'll be 24 years being on the air. And so I have a lot of interesting people coming up on the show. One of the things I'm interested in is having a women's march this year, because this is the election year.
Okay.
And, last September, Ohio became a purple state because both sides of the aisle came together and they voted yes on this issue.
Okay.
So I want to take that theme and have a purple march, get all of our sisters together. I want to interview our mayors again and our female mayors and see if we can get all this going. And I'm hoping to have it in the blue dot of Ohio, Yellow Springs.
Okay, and the mayor of Yellow Springs is
Mayor Pam.
Pam, yes.
And
yes.
she's been on the show several
Right,
times.
she has.
Yes.
A nice lady, real
Very
nice.
nice lady.
Seems like everybody that comes on this show or that you talk to, they're just nice people. You know, you do a lot of Zoom because the people might be in London or New York or somewhere like that. And the only thing we have to do is get our time together, because if they're in California, and we're here in Dayton, that's 3-hour difference and stuff.
Well, one thing I have to share with you, and this has been, I have been trying to interview this lady for the last 6 months, and it just never happens. She's in Australia, and she's a nurse.
Okay.
She's a nurse who works a lot, and you've got that and then on the equation, and then you have the fact that the time zone, and it has been nearly impossible. And she's been wanting to come on. I've been wanting to interview her, and it just
the time and everything is just
it's
not.
so extreme.
Yeah.
So, but I haven't given up.
Okay.
She says we'll make it happen eventually. So I'm just going to let the universe sort of work it out.
Right.
Yeah.
And then also you, during certain holidays and things like that, you have certain themes, like Christmas, Thanksgiving, Valentine's Day, stuff like that.
And with Thanksgiving, the holidays, I like to bring out the puppets more and the easy bake. Now, in the past, I used to have them almost on every show, but now I like to focus more on the holidays, because now that the interviewing has really expanded here, like here down at DATV, not only can we do a sit-down interview in the studio, we have a video lab podcast studio where you can Zoom and go Facebook Live and and YouTube Live, and so there's just so many more options down there.
Right, exactly. And with your show, you're here in Dayton, around in the area here, and then you're in New York. And where else are you? What other places?
Well, I used to air in Chicago for a while.
Okay.
And that was a little tricky there, because the way that the public access station works there is that unless you live in Chicago, you can only give like maybe a half an hour segment of your show. You can't, and my show's an hour, and I wouldn't even get a weekly. I would get like a month. But like in New York, I'm on every week.
Okay.
So I that was kind of tricky there for a while. I'm trying to get back on there. Hopefully they've updated their system. I'm trying to get on in LA. That's been a little tricky also, but I've aired in other cities across the country, as a special.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So now on YouTube, is it the same way? I mean, you have the same places, New York and all those places, or is it different from doing the DATV thing?
In New York, they have their studio's a lot smaller.
Okay.
Which I was surprised because it's so big, but most people at the Manhattan Neighborhood Network, they check out cameras. So you have more people checking out cameras and going out in the field versus people here. But they do have in-studio shows. And I remember, I've been on DATV since 2000, but I've been airing in New York since 2004.
Okay.
And back then, I used to have to mail VHS tapes.
Wow.
Back then, I had to have a sponsor that lived in that city that would go down to the station and pick up the tapes when they were done. So I would mail them to that sponsor, and they would take them back and forth. And now it's so much easier because it's just a file.
Right, yeah.
So I went from VHS to DVDs to now it's just a simple file.
Were they black and white back in those days, or did they have color?
Oh, a color, yeah. Really, yeah.
Because we're talking about way back there, and then you had the big TV cameras and everything?
Well, here's the thing. I remember the public access station in Columbus. You know, they had some stuff going on, so they weren't. They by the time Bazzaroworld was on, I had was on the verge of airing on there. I had done all the paperwork. I was going to start airing in Columbus, and let me tell you, the tapes that I had to send,
Okay.
they were like $20 to send. They were the 3/4 inch tapes, so it was like sending an encyclopedia.
Okay.
So I had
okay.
just finished copying my second show. I was ready to deliver it. They were already going to give me a time slot, and then they had to shut down the station.
Wow. What
And so that was I was a little disappointed because I really wanted that market. But now, now that we have streaming,
right.
you can watch the show from anywhere on this planet.
Exactly. Yeah, you really can.
You really can. And I have so many followers from all over the globe that really, like the lady in Australia, they tune in and they watch my show. And because of that, I've been able to network with more and more people.
Right, right.
There was this performer, this drag performer that I talked to for a while. She's in Paris. And we were going to set up a Zoom.
Okay.
And the only problem with that was her job would not, the club that she worked at would not allow her to do that.
Okay.
Because it was a money, and we're nonprofit, and they wanted to make
Wanted to make money.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
So you know, sometimes you'll have something that's ahead of your time, an idea. It doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. It just may happen more later than it is sooner.
Right, right. Now I'm going to ask you this: is there haters out there? Is it people that
Well, it's so
said
weird.
negative comments or?
You know, the weird thing is that I don't get it as much as I did in the beginning.
Good, good.
I mean, it's a lot. It's different now. But one of my guests recently, and she was on my Thanksgiving show, and where she works at, she told them that she was going to be on the show, and they had been watching my show for years, and so they had advice for how I'm supposed to do my program, and they were
Okay.
saying, "Oh, you should do it this way. You should do it that way," and
So they were trying to tell you what to do.
well, yeah, and people have done that from the very beginning, and so what I said to her, she said, well, she says, what should I tell them? I said, well, they're welcome to come down here and take the classes and join, and every time I say something like that, they zip it right up.
Yeah.
They refuse to walk in your shoes. They only know what they see.
Right.
They don't
exactly.
understand the work that goes into this.
Exactly, and that's true. So give some of the names of the drag queens that have, like, came down here that you interviewed and stuff. Because, I mean, you have some gorgeous drag queens that come in here, and they come dressed, you know, because that's their character, or they're doing a lip syncing and stuff like that. And I'm just at awe, because I'm like, oh God, look at where'd they get them shoes? You know, I wear a size 11 shoe, and I need to find out where they got those.
Yeah,
you know?
because, you know, at one time you could only get a certain size. Now
Yeah.
the universe has really grown. But
Yeah.
my favorite entertainer, and she was sort of an honorary cast member, was the late Misty Knight, the legendary Misty
Okay.
Knight. She first appeared on my show in 2002, and I would call Misty up, and I said, would you like to do Bizarro? She says, I'll be right down. So she would appear on the show 2-3 times a year, every
Okay,
year, from
okay.
the very beginning, and I miss her, and may she rest in peace. She was the oldest drag performer in the Miami Valley. I mean, she started performing in the late 60s.
Okay.
And she would drive across the country in a convertible with her friends.
Okay.
And I remember she talked about one time where she's driving across the country, and it's during the summer, and there is a line of cars on the highway.
Wow.
So her and her friend got out of the car and they put on a show.
Put on a show. Okay.
And
okay.
so she's from that era. Show business was in her life. But there's Ashley West.
Okay.
Oh my God, she's another legend that has been on the show. I've had some of the Ruby girls on the show.
Okay.
They're icons here of Dayton. And so, I mean, it's just, there have been like, I want to say there's been a few hundred drag queens over the year. I mean, because I've been on for almost 24 years
Right,
now. And so there's
exactly.
just been so many.
Exactly.
And I've interviewed some of the Drag Race girls also. I remember back in 2012, I went to, actually it was 2011 and 2012, and I got to interview a lot of the earlier girls from RuPaul's Drag Race also.
Okay. And then just like you had mentioned about the gay pride parade and things like that, tell us a little more about that. And I know you had the floats and stuff. And then also they were over at McIntosh Park with the gay pride thing over there.
Yeah, this, what was it? This past summer was going to be like I believe it's the third year of Black
Okay.
Gay Pride, and that's usually held at McIntosh
McIntosh.
Park, and it's really starting to grow. And then there's the regular LGBTQ
The
plus
one downtown.
about downtown Dayton, and this past year was the biggest one that we've ever had. And you know how big it was?
How big?
It was so big that we can no longer use Courthouse Square because we just don't have the room. So it's being rerouted for next year, for
Okay.
this year, I mean.
Right, right.
Yeah, and so for the first time, I was parade chairperson. So we had over, I think we had over, what was it, 50 or 60 floats
It was
or
quite a
something
few
like that.
because I was working with DATV.
Yeah.
You know, and ran the cameras and stuff, and we ran the cameras for the parade itself, and then up on the stairs where they had the performances and things. Then we ran the cameras for that.
It was a lot of work.
It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of people.
Oh yes, it was. It was so packed, but getting the parade together, I was like, so I arrived down at the new LGBT Center in this new location, and so I'm supposed to get everyone together.
Okay.
And I arrived there early, and one of my volunteers says that they're not going to be able to make it, and then another one calls and says they're not going to be able to make it.
Wow.
But you know what? I was so relaxed because I said, I'm just going to let the universe figure this out. So I went and I had my tablets,
Okay.
I had my post-its, and I had people come in and I said, look, we're going to need to rearrange everything, and we started giving each other assignments, and we pulled it off.
Pulled it off. You sure did.
We
You
pulled
sure
it
did.
off, and I was so pleasantly surprised.
Well, see, you've been to the gay pride parades and things like that, so you already had a handle on that, and then it just came natural to you, to know what to do and how to organize people and say, hey, you need to be able to do this and do this because so-and-so's not here, or, and it flowed perfect.
Well, exactly, and so I did my work with that last year, but my new challenge is going to be helping organize the Women's March for this year.
Okay.
So I want to keep doing things that are just going to keep broadening my horizon and really just
And
helping
making people aware.
Just so
you got to make
self-aware.
people aware of things that are happening and going on.
Especially right now, we really, this is a very important, every year is an important election year, but this is, things are so polarized right now,
Right.
and I have to do everything in my power to make sure that the rights that I still have, I want to be able to keep them.
Exactly.
When the pandemic happened, my whole life, everyone's life was turned upside down.
Right.
And I just want to make sure the recovery that I'm having, I want it to continue.
Right.
And me helping out with that parade is part of that healing. It's for my mental health and mental health for my sisters.
Right. So now you're going to be doing Pride here in Dayton, and then you say you're going to be doing Yellow Springs. What are you going to be doing there?
Yes. So here for Pride in Dayton this year, I'm giving out 3 awards.
Okay.
I'm going to give out for the best float.
Okay.
And then I'm going to give out 2 of the legendary Misty Night Legacy Awards. So for behind the scenes. So I already have my 2 nominees for that, and they are very prestigious people from this community. So they're very iconic. So it's going to be, people are going to be very surprised and happy also, these recipients.
So now, do you go to Columbus or Cincinnati? Because I'm pretty sure they have big ones
I've
there.
done the Cincinnati parade. I actually covered it one year. I went down there. Richard Shanks used to be a sidekick on the show. He directed the show for a while also, and we took his own camera and we went down there, and I did sort of the old Ruth Lyons thing where I wrapped my microphone with a flower and had people speak into my flower. And I interviewed people, for the parade. I also did that in Columbus one year, but as far as doing the parades, we did that way back in the day. And I don't know, I was watching footage of the Columbus parade last year. The great thing about it is that it's gotten so huge. But the part that really bothered me is that it was so commercialized now that the message was getting filtered out. When you have like 100 floats going, and it's just, and you're not getting the message through, then they're making money off of it.
Exactly.
And so Yellow Springs is so organic, and you know what our floats were? They were like little golf carts. It was just so cute, and it was simple, and it was warm.
It was Yellow Springs.
It was Yellow Springs,
it was
and that's
Yellow
what
Springs.
I love about it. It was like, it was just so intimate, and I would rather be part of that than believe me, I love the bells and
something
whistles.
big, Well, just like here in Dayton, I mean, but you all had a lot of sponsors. It was a lot of sponsors.
And I love that it's getting bigger. I just don't. I think right now, because the world is on fire, we can still have the bells and whistles that are going on, to celebrate. But we really need to, there's just a disconnect with people right now. People just do not have the attention span to focus on everything being on fire right now. They get so tired because the information is overload. And because of the information overload, they think if they just ignore it, it's going to go away. But when you ignore it, that's when your rights are being taken away.
Right.
So I just really think there's a tone deafness about everything that's going on. So I figure if I go to a smaller town,
small one,
I'm going to be heard more, and it's going to get out there.
Exactly. So. And you also went to somebody's school to
yes,
explain
my
that.
good friend Stephanie Hope Walter. She has, and I think there's going to be another one coming up soon. It's called Mentor Mondays, and so I was asked to speak for a few classes
at a high school.
And this high school had over 800 kids. I was like, wow, that was pretty major. And so I talked to these kids, and I just didn't know how they were going to relate to me because they're all about TikTok and their whole little generation. But we found a middle ground, and I talked to them about AI and the way that I told them my perspective. I said, do any of you kids like to watch old movies? And we started talking about Frankenstein and how one of the lessons from that movie is that, we should have an openness to technology, but we can't let it take over
us.
We as human beings.
Exactly.
And that's what can happen with AI. So I just think if people just keep an awareness about that and not just give in, we're not thinking for ourselves anymore.
Right.
And I think people just don't have the attention span to think for themselves.
No, that's true. That's true. So the kids enjoyed you being there doing or talking to them about this.
And we were able to pull up an episode of Bazzaroworld, and we watched some clips on YouTube. So they were like, oh, okay. And so it was really cool. It was nice.
Did you mention anything about maybe coming down here to have a class or,
Well, we talked about that, and that's something that they may want to do in the future also. I mean, bring the kids down here and seeing what this environment is and not just doing it on their phones.
Right.
They actually get there. I really believe when the pandemic happened, young people have been affected so much that they're just not socialized anymore.
Right.
And my job is Darryl Bohannon. I work at the Schuster Performing Arts Center. And there's people from every age group down there. But what I notice about the young people, they don't say hello, they don't speak to you, and there's a coldness about them.
Right.
They're just not very friendly at all.
Or one thing that they're doing, got that phone, and they doing this here, and they barely even look up to see who you are, what you're talking about, or anything.
And so I think a lot of the young people are becoming like feral cats. And so it's like if they don't know how to interact with people.
Right.
I feel really bad for them because it's going to affect. Not only is it going to affect them with getting jobs in the future,
Right.
it's going to affect them as far as meeting people and getting married and all of that, because if they can't socialize by just saying hello
Right.
on a basic level, how are they going to be able to function in life?
I think a lot of the young people they're going to be more like robots, like you're talking about the AI and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not going to listen to the parents, when they should, and all we can do is just pray for them. That's the way I feel.
Well, it's just like what we were talking about earlier about that mother and her
Right.
son.
Exactly.
And interesting thing about that, now that this woman has been sentenced, I'm wondering that these other cases going back a few years, like Kyle Rittenhouse.
Okay.
Remember
I remember that.
and his mother driving him from another state to do that.
Yes.
It wouldn't surprise me that people are going to start bringing up these old cases where the parents were not being nurturing to their children. They were putting them in situations. They were
Right.
enabling this behavior.
And that's true.
Accountability.
Right. Exactly. So hopefully, they can do something about that.
Yeah.
Hopefully we all can work with the kids. Don't have to be our kids. It can be somebody's kids out there,
And I've had children on this show from the very beginning, on and off. I remember this is probably like maybe 10 or 12 years ago. I used to have an easy bake contest for the girls and for the boys on the show. And I wanted to show them that, diversity of Ms. Demure. And that this is a safe space.
Right.
I'm just an actor.
And they didn't feel uncomfortable.
No,
anything
because
like that.
I carried myself a certain way. They
Exactly.
carried themselves a certain way. It's no different than seeing Captain Kangaroo or just someone in a bunny costume.
Right, exactly.
I'm just wearing a costume. But Mr. Muir and I, there's a lot of similarities in us. We're very passionate.
Okay.
We wear our hearts on our sleeves.
Yes, you do.
And but we love our creativity and we love DATV.
Yeah. And speaking of your creativity, because a lot of times you'll call me, hey, Cheryl, I got a show coming up. And I'm like, okay. And you'll say, well, this is what it's about. And I was thinking about doing this. And you give me your ideas of the different things you would like to do on that show. And then you've also embraced my ideas. Which makes me feel good. I said, okay, I feel like a part of this,
Well, it's a collaboration.
It is.
And I think creating art has to be a collaboration.
And it does.
And if that doesn't, you don't really move the needle.
Right.
And we've had some really great collaborations.
Oh, we have.
Absolutely. I've had some great collaborations over all of these years. There are things that I had made in the very beginning that, and I was still kind of figuring out the editing. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to see that. But then years later, I'm like, oh, we get the new editing software. And I'm like, I can go back and I can clean that up and I can reinvent it. And so, I mean, and sometimes when you don't have a sea of stuff, you're more creative also.
Right, yes.
So this is like a playground out here.
And it is. It is. And we come down here, we enjoy. It's nothing hard. It's nothing scary about it other than me trying to do my show. I'm always nervous.
You have 2 of them now.
Yes, I do. I have 2 of them. And I'm nervous a lot of times, but I watch you and I say, he's just a natural, and you'll just, you don't stutter, you just keep right on going. And
well, sometimes I do.
Yeah, but then you'll be like, well, my guest is in England, and and then you'll get to talking to them and New York or wherever, or the people come in, like that guy that came in with the animals.
Oh, yes.
You know, and I'm an animal lover. And I had told that guy, I said, you need to come back. You need to bring one of them snakes with you, you know, because I love snakes.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah.
See,
So,
you would have loved Misty because
Okay.
Misty had a, and I can't remember the name of the snake. It was really enormous.
okay, a
And she used to-
python
maybe
or
she
a
used
boa
to-
constrictor.
I wish I could remember, but she used to bring it to the studio, and she had a basket like this big.
See?
And I remember that the first time I interviewed her, she had it in the studio. It was in a big giant basket,
Wow.
and it was in this opaque period, so it was
Okay,
about to
it
shed
was getting
skin.
ready to shed, yeah.
Yeah, and she used to like it was part of her act also.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, so I'm.
Wow, I would have loved that. I'd be like, just leave the snake over here near
Yeah,
me.
really, yeah.
Hello, little snake. Found in a cord all around me and
Oh
everything.
my God, I miss her. She just, yeah, she always brought the snake. So that
Okay.
was-
Okay. Well, that was great. That was great. Well, look, we're almost out of time.
Okay.
But I want to know, is there anything else you want to talk about, mention, anything up and coming?
Well, there's, you made me, when you brought up the animals, there's a show that, and now I have so many shows on VHS, and this is
Okay.
the one that I'm looking for, and I don't remember where I put it at. Yes, that's the thing about it. When you've been on for a long time,
Right.
your stuff starts, yeah, like I need to get some organization. But there was a show where this was back in '02, and I went to the Montgomery County Fair,
Okay.
and I interviewed all of the animals.
No, you did.
And I need to find that.
You got
and I went
to.
to every cow, and I went to and I interviewed them.
Oh, now see, you giving me an idea.
Yes,
You don't want to do that. You don't want to give me no
I feel like
ideas.
Dr. Doolittle. You know what I mean?
That's cute. And you're holding the mic out there
Yes,
like this.
exactly.
Okay. Okay. And then just like that show we did last month
Oh my God!
at the Salt and Pepper, and you had the little teeny microphone and stuff. You was holding it down there for them to talk.
Well, I was in Yellow Springs for the Yellow Springs Street Fair
Okay.
with my friend, and we there was all these little knickknacks and shops, little pop-up shops, and I saw this little microphone, and I said, "Oh my God, I could do so
That
much
was
with that."
perfect. That is
It was meant
perfect.
to happen.
Yes, yes, and it worked out great. You're gonna have to use that again, on one of your shows or something there.
Now I have to ask you. There used to be a producer down here named Ardella Relaford. Do you know her?
No.
Well, she had a show called Mr. Peavy,
Oh.
and Mr. Peavy was a 108-year-old African American man. He was fictional.
Okay.
And so she did the voice. And so she created this life-size puppet of him.
Wow.
He was in a wheelchair. She had speakers in his chest. And she was doing the voice. You have to ask Dale about it. It was the kookiest thing.
Wow. I'm wondering, do they still have do they have archives here with all the shows from way back
Well,
when?
they have a lot of stuff on YouTube.
Okay. But I was just wondering if they had any down here. But I'm gonna have to pull up some stuff.
Oh,
just
especially the
to-
telethon.
Right.
Now, back in 2000, I think it was 2007, I went to, was it John Rocco? He was the executive director at the time.
Okay.
And I said, I would like for us to do a telethon to raise money. So we had a 13-hour telethon.
Telethon,
You should have
okay.
seen this studio. The hallways were packed all day long.
Well, we ought to do that again. Hopefully,
We should.
Hopefully, they might consider doing that.
Yeah.
And we can raise money.
Well, I
for-
think the way that we could do it, because I had a candidate on my show, I think it was 2 years ago, and we did an interconnect where we had Facebook Live. We used this monitor,
Okay.
and people were asking questions on Facebook, and we were also DATV Live. So if we do the telethon, we have it live in here.
Okay.
We have it live on social media at
Right.
the same time.
Right.
And we advertise to all our sponsors to be watching. I think we
Exactly.
can still raise money.
Yeah, I think that would work.
But it has to be intercut with social media at the same time.
Right, right. Okay, so since we're out of time, as you know, my show is called Flowers While You're Living. Yes. And what I want to do is, because I believe in giving people their flowers while they're living. So I want to give these flowers to you.
Well, thank you. They're lovely.
Yes. So,
Ooh. Ooh.
yeah, and just my little appreciation for you, and
Well, these
being
are
my
lovely.
being
Thank
my
you so
guest.
much. I will cherish these.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So one thing I want to leave my guests and everybody watching is to don't pray on the problem, pray on the solution. Thank you. And I'm Cheryl Thomas, your host. Flowers while you're living. Flowers while you're